our history, what level of vibration would our civilization need to be at to have a completely different version of Earth that didn't have dinosaurs?
Or had different kinds of animals that weren't necessarily exhibiting or reflecting the idea of predation in the way that you experience today, would be above 200,000 cycles per second in your overall frequency.
And what percentage of our planet population is at that frequency level presently, would you say?
Less than 2%.
And on balance, then, the population is functioning at what?
You want an average for the entire collective of your planet?
Yes.
Somewhere around 60 to 70,000 cycles per second.
Okay. And so will contact be limited to people who are functioning over 200,000 cycles per second, or just in the initial stages, those individuals would perhaps have contact first?
It might be that they will experience certain kinds of contact before others, but that can help others raise their vibration, knowing that that's going on as well. It doesn't have to be exactly 200,000 for there to be some form of open contact. And again, remember, it depends on what you're having contact with. But the idea is it can start somewhere around 150 to 160,000 cycles per second, minimally, slowly, and it can build. What we are talking about is that above 200,000 cycles per second, there would be something considered to be normal, constant, open contact.
And so for an individual to have contact with you, what kind of frequency level would they need to have in order to have a good experience?
At this particular point, again, definitely above 200,000 cycles per second, probably closer to 215,000 cycles. At this point.
And would one of the key things of individuals functioning in that level is that they are genuinely able to stay in a positive state no matter what they encounter?
Yes, because choosing anything else simply doesn't make sense to a being operating on that level.
And their consciousness would be much more clear in terms of all of their, or most of their beliefs, or important beliefs.
Let me put it to you in an extremely overly simplistic kind of way. Would you be willing right now to punch yourself in the face as hard as you can? Yes or no?
No.
Well, it would be that kind of an obvious choice to those operating above 200,000 cycles per second that they simply wouldn't choose something that doesn't make sense for them, that they don't prefer. It's simply not on the list of choices. Yes, they know it's always a possibility, but the probability is so low that they simply would not choose it in a practical day-to-day sense. Just like you would not choose to punch yourself in the face.
So part of our challenge is to let go of the ideas of self-recrimination and guilt, I suppose.
Yes.
The ideas of what it truly means to be spiritual.
To be a spirit. To be a spirit. Not spiritual. To be a spirit in physical terms.
And what kinds of emotions would that eliminate?
You would no longer choose to feel the idea of fear or sadness in that sense, or anger or hate. Those kinds of things simply wouldn't make sense to a being operating on that level. Again, in much the same way that you have chosen not to punch yourself in the face. It would be that visceral of a choice. It would not feel correct. It would feel damaging as physically punching yourself, to choose the idea of hate and sorrow and sadness and fear, so on and so forth. And
on this level, we are actually able to tolerate huge amounts of dissonance and seeing things on television that are violent or unpleasant, and not feel what we would feel if we were above 200,000 cycles per second, when we would immediately disconnect from that kind of input, I suppose.
You would either disconnect from the input, or you would know how to use it to positive effect.
So that's the other piece. If you are going to see it, then you know how to use it to get a positive effect.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
So what about the idea that of false accusation? Um, you know how you were saying that if someone judges you, then, you know, if you didn't believe it was true on some level, you wouldn't react to it.
Yes, if you are doing it out of the idea of teaching lessons to other people about those things and how to be more discerning about what is and is not true, then you can remain relatively neutral, knowing that you have made a choice to attract such a thing into your life as a lesson for others to learn.
Wow. Wow. Um, and if you ask for help, will you always receive guidance, or are there circumstances where help won't be given? And what would those circumstances be?
There are no such circumstances. Help is always given, but as we have said, you have to learn to pay attention to it and not insist that it must come in a certain form, because it may be being given to you, but you may be insisting that it should come some other way and therefore not recognizing the help that you're actually getting. So it's never that you are not given help. You are being given all the help and assistance you can possibly be given all the time. It's just that you haven't necessarily been taught to pay attention to that because of the belief systems within you.
I think there's some stories about those ideas of God sending help and the individual not recognizing that
Correct.
it's coming from God and thinking it has to look a certain way for it to
Yes.
be coming
Yes.
from God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So help is never denied, ever.
And let's see, if our soul group agrees, can we incarnate as another ET race on another planet or a ship?
Sure, why not?
So is there such a thing as our soul group? What is our soul group?
Your soul family, or those that you deem are exploring a certain theme together. You can decide to do that as a group.
Does that mean that with each life that you experience yourself as, you have a different soul family?
Could be so. Just depends on the themes you're exploring. Now, you might generally keep a lot of them because souls are very flexible and willing to explore a lot of different things. So, euphemistically, it might be the same soul family who are willing to explore different themes together. Just like you decide as a group of friends or family to go on vacation one time to this place and the next to another place. You can still be the so-called same soul family, but you can be agreeing to have different experiences together.
So you've talked a lot about how it's important to take action in order to ground the energy of your passion.
And also to respond properly to the higher mind that sent you the passion to begin with.
So in the case of someone like Buddha, where there was the idea of travels and many journeys within, how
Yes.
do the journeys within fit into what you're describing because of, you know, the insights that people get and all of that kind of?
No matter how many journeys you may take within, remember that the Buddha also expressed the spiritual nature of chopping wood and carrying water, which are physical actions. In other words, don't necessarily segregate the idea of your actions in physical reality as being any less spiritual than the inner journeys you may take. It's always an opportunity to have an outward expression and an outward example of the inner journeys you may take so that others may see through your example in the actions that you take the beauty and information you have discovered from your journeys within. Because you can be inspiring to others with your behavior outwardly, your actions outwardly, based on the journeys you have discovered within.
So it's actually not this or that, it's this and that.
Exactly so.
Okay. And then as far as shifting to different realities,
which you are doing all the time.
right. What does the mechanism of that feel and look like, that shifting?
Well, you're doing it all the time. So what does it feel and look like? It looks like time. It looks like change. It looks like motion. It looks like space. The idea is it's so natural to you, you don't even know you're doing it. So the idea is it really doesn't feel anything like what you would imagine unless you decide to make a larger continuity shift and let go of some of the so-called frames in between one and another that you would normally experience, and be capable of consciously recognizing that you're shifting all the time. And then it might feel like elation, it might feel like disorientation, it might feel like a number of different things. But the idea is that you're doing it all the time. And in the natural sense of the agreement you have made to do it all the time with many others, what does it feel like? Doesn't feel like anything at all because it's natural. As I said, you only really feel the difference when you make a larger change, a larger shift that is a breaking of continuity.
So that's like teleporting almost.
Yes. It is exactly that. Because what you're doing all the time is teleporting from one reality to another. Billions of times per second. It's just that when you teleport or shift to something less expected, based on your understanding of what's expected, of your agreement to what's expected, then you notice the difference.
Can you also explain to us what it means to shift to fourth density and fifth density? Well, no, it's saying to shift to fourth density and fifth dimension. So I'm not sure what.
All right. Fifth dimension is non-physical. It means you're going back into spirit, so to speak, to put it linearly. Fourth density is a physical reality, just a higher vibratory one. And then if you decide to go into spirit, you've gone to not only fifth density, but the fifth dimension. Because again, that's the border between physical and non-physical reality. So fourth density may draw upon fifth dimensional energies, but you're not actually experiencing yourself in the fifth dimension until you're in spirit.
So when you're non-physical, you can still have a linear experience, right?
You can create a linear experience. Yes, you can create that. It's just that time is more malleable and flexible, so you can create whatever you want and experience it sort of linearly, or you can instantaneously experience something because time is not the same kind of factor in spirit that it is in physical reality. In fact, the idea of time is one of the very definitions of physical reality that you impose upon yourself. By shifting to billions of different realities from a particular perspective, you create this side effect, this illusion of time in a linear way. But in spirit, there's no need to do that, but you can do that.
So like for an individual such as yourself that is quasi-physical.
Yes.
Is there this huge demarcation that happens when you become fully non-physical as a spirit and experience other levels of yourself going forward? Because you can still have a linear progression of fifth and sixth and seventh.
Yes, but again, it's experienced very differently in the spirit world. But yes, the demarcation can be quite different, as most people who have near-death experiences describe. Suddenly, you are filled with unconditional love. You understand and know what your life is all about and what you chose. You remember completely and utterly who you are in that sense.
It's a lot to look forward to.
Well, yes, but not meaning to run away from physical reality.
Right. Because we get that theme a lot too, is that the desire to get out of physical reality because it's hard to accept things that are negative, predatory environment, all of these kinds of things.
Yes, but that's a misunderstanding. It's not about getting out of physical reality. It's about allowing you to know you are creating the experience in physical reality so that you can experience your control of what you're creating while physical, knowing that physical reality is an expression of spirit. It's not about getting out of it. It's about rendering physical reality more spiritually.
That's amazing. And the training ground for that is being able to stay in a positive state no matter what you experience and
Yes.
not letting expectation of how it's supposed to be control the way that you respond to it.
Correct.
All of these kinds of things that you've expressed in the formula.
Yes. So this is a misunderstanding many people on your planet have about the idea of leaving physical reality, getting out of or overcoming physical reality. No. What you need to do is create physical reality in a more spiritual way so that there is less difference between the two.
It's very powerful.
Yes.
This person was saying they were reading a book about angels, and one day rare things happened. When I opened a new chapter and read the title of that chapter, suddenly I felt a gentle breeze. A story came into my head, and I later realized that the story that came into my head was in that chapter. What happened to that person?
You opened up to a higher level of your being, a higher level of your consciousness, saw the template you had laid down for about to read that story. You, in a sense, sensed what it was about ahead of time, so to speak, by tapping into the template you had created in non-physical reality to gain a glimpse of the so-called future, or again, a parallel present. And you had assistance and a greeting from higher level beings, not only your own higher mind, but spirit guides and other beings as well, that reinforce the idea with that so-called gentle breeze that you were in the correct state of being to be able to expand your consciousness and see what you had laid out for yourself.
Connection between those?
There is some. We will not go into detail, but there is also a connection between Anasazi, Anunnaki, and Essassani.
Yes. Okay. All right. So moving on to some current events. Are ETs able to listen in to the current UFO/UAP hearings that we are having here in the US?
Yes.
Do they feel the same happiness and anticipation that we humans feel who believe that aliens are real?
We understand that bit by bit, this is progressing toward the idea of everyone already understanding that we exist.
And in this meeting that was broadcast, the government admitted that they recovered extraterrestrial bodies from crashed UAPs and nobody even batted an eye. Are we at a comfort level now about the idea of ETs as a nation or planet?
First of all, an individual from a particular program within the government released this information. There are those who simply do not believe the information and therefore are appearing to be comfortable with it, but are still in denial about it. There are those that are more comfortable with it. Yes, the indications of lack of reaction in certain ways can be an indication that you are closer to open contact. All of this is preparation. All of this is about the idea of disclosure, and all of it is preparation for the idea of the high probability of open contact at the end of 26 or the beginning of 27.
Okay, and you've mentioned that Skinwalker Ranch in Utah is a possible location for first open contact.
Yes.
In regards to their research there, can you tell us the origin and or purpose of the 1.6 gigahertz signal that the scientists there frequently encounter?
Yes. This is a communication signal that is also of the correct frequency to open portals. In one particular episode of that particular program, as they broadcast that signal out, they received an echo reflection, which they could not understand where it was coming from. But that is the signal that the portal is open. So when you broadcast it and receive the reflectional echo, you know that you have opened the portal. That's the significance of it and why that particular frequency is used for space communication as well. It is in alignment with the idea of communication into higher dimensional realms. So, intuitively, your scientists have figured this out, whether they understand it completely or not. But in the demonstration they gave where they broadcast that signal and got the echo reflection from seemingly everywhere and nowhere, that was an indication that they had actually opened the portal. Had someone been in a position to actually walk through the portal at that moment, they would have vanished.
Interesting. We're expecting record heat waves this summer. If the Earth gets too hot, will ETs be used to block, will they use UFOs to block the sun to help keep it cool? Or
No.
do you...
No. Climate change is a natural event that you have accelerated with your technology and pollution. This is your choice. You will have to shift to a different Earth where these things may be mitigated. The idea, of course, is that these things go in cycles, and the warming of your oceans, as you're experiencing it now, can actually, paradoxically, bring about a cooling cycle that can begin a different ice age.
So that whole idea that there's some people on the planet who want steps taken to prevent more global warming, while there's others who are opposed to it. Why do we have these kinds of, I guess, issues on our planet?
Because Earth is where all the stories are being told, positive and negative, and the splitting prism will divide into the different versions of Earth that will allow people to continue to experience the consequences of the choices they are making for their own reasons in playing out these stories positively or negatively. Earth, in that sense, is the dividing line, is the dividing space, is the college of many choices. You'll experience the consequence of the choices and the classes you have agreed to take.
Interesting. And would your ships be able to put out wildfires? Or I know you're saying they won't intervene at all, but are the ships capable of doing something like that?
Yes, by surrounding the fire with a force field that cuts off all the oxygen. The fire would then simply extinguish.
And lastly, one person was thinking that spiritual information is illegal. Is this your understanding? Because they're concerned about this kind of information, that somehow it's not okay.
If such is illegal in certain portions of your planet, then we would simply suggest that if a person desires to interact with spiritual information, that they act on their passion to either change the legality in their locale, or they simply move to a place where the idea of spiritual information is not illegal. Simple solutions are available on your planet. But there's no such thing, really, as the idea of spiritual information being inaccessible to anyone. You can keep it private if you wish. It doesn't have to be displayed publicly. Nevertheless, if certain cultures on your planet deem it to be illegal to contact spirit, then do something about it, or move to where you don't have to do anything about it.
And that pretty much wraps up our questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to share in the few moments that we have remaining?
We will give you what is coming up next. For the next transmission will be all about parallel realities and you. We will describe exactly how your connections to different parallel realities inform and guide the life and the themes you are exploring in this particular time stream. So be prepared to allow your mind to expand interdimensionally by focusing in on the ideas we will share in Parallel Realities and You in our upcoming transmission. Aside from that, allow yourselves to continue with this transmission by becoming relaxed and receive our unconditional love in the sharing that you are about to experience.
Thank you.
To learn a routine to switch realities faster.
What can I immediately do in my mind to become more aware and learn the habit of perceiving this reality as not preferred by me and switching to a reality that I do prefer?
All right. Let's go back to the first sentence in that question. Read it again and then stop.
If I experience a situation that I don't like and I don't have the time or opportunity
Stop. This is avoidance of looking at your belief system. Make the time. Make the opportunity. You are not making the time to look at your belief systems. You're not creating an opportunity within your schedule. Keeping so busy that you can't do that is an avoidance mechanism. Because if you start relaxing into yourself and not be in such a hurry to be busy with everything that prevents you from having the time, then you are avoiding the issue of looking at the beliefs, and that's what you need to do in order to change the beliefs in a way that would allow you to experience more of what you prefer. So you have to stop avoiding doing the process of examining your beliefs to let go of the ones that don't work for you. Make the time, create the opportunity. That's the most important thing you could do when that issue comes up of a belief or a situation or a reflection that you don't prefer. So you have to incorporate the ability into your schedule of having the time to do that. Otherwise, again, you're not following the formula. You're not allowing yourself to have the opportunity to look at those things for one reason or another. That's usually fear-based. So take the time. There's nothing to be afraid of in having the time to examine those things. You're not going to miss anything else. You can allow synchronicity to be the organizing principle that will allow you to accomplish what you need to accomplish without assuming that you have to be so busy that you cannot look within yourself or take the time to do so.
Thank you.
Yes.
How can we find grounding in a reality we don't believe in? Despite being unified in oneness and having visitors showing me multiple amazing tools daily, everything here still feels like part of the collective, but ultimately meaningless. I'm completely abandoning the 3D. How do we engage with this tangible reality that feels more like a waiting room? Additionally, how will things transform following the arrival of your people?
This goes back to what we have said. Get engaged. Get engaged in service in some way, shape, or form to humanity. Then it won't feel like a waiting room. If you're waiting around, then you are misunderstanding the whole point of why you chose to be here in physical reality and have this experience. So stop waiting. Start doing. Start engaging. Start being of service in some way, shape, or form. Start helping. Now, again, the idea is whatever people do with the help you share is their business and not yours. But you have to do the act. You have to take the action that is necessary for you to represent what kind of a world you prefer to live in. Because if you did live in that world, you would be doing the things that we're talking about. You would be engaging. You would be being of service. You would be taking action in those ways. So the idea is not to abandon what you call 3D. The idea is to remember that you chose to be having this experience, and you need to remember why. And it was for the purpose of aiding and assisting in the evolution of humanity by being of service in positive ways, so you can function as a living example of what other people can also choose for themselves should they decide to do so. So stop sitting on the sidelines and get engaged.
Thank you. Is the human mind capable of
One
nonlinear?
moment. Individuals listening to this transmission may notice a little bit of a difference in the energy that we are putting out in these answers. We are encouraging more strongly the idea of taking action, of really taking action on these steps and all of the things that we are discussing that are involved in the questions that come up about these steps. Because we are underscoring and underlining the importance now of actually acting on the steps that are necessary for you to really bring about the vibrational frequency, if you so desire it, of open contact and alignment with the interstellar alliance. So, you will feel this energy being a little bit more, a little bit stronger in terms of encouraging you and urging you to take these steps. It doesn't mean you are being forced to do anything. It means that we are now not holding back in transmitting to you the energy frequency of commitment to the idea of taking steps, of being aware enough, being responsible enough, being bold enough to stand your ground, be yourself, and actually take the physical actions and steps necessary to demonstrate what you have long said you are committed to demonstrating. It's not about sitting on the sidelines anymore. If you're really going to follow along in these steps and take the actions necessary for open contact, what we're doing by changing our frequency here is we are making this more physically real for you and underscoring how real the physical actions need to be, how necessary they are for you to really align with this vibration and let go of all the things that are not of the frequency of open contact and alignment with the interstellar alliance. So take no offense at what you may perceive as a more intensified delivery of this information. It's still up to you and still in your hands. You are free to choose with your free will whether to participate and to what degree to participate in these steps. But that doesn't mean we're going to hold back in underscoring how important it is to really stand your ground and actually take the physical actions necessary to demonstrate the commitment to understanding how the formula works. Because now it's time to walk your talk. So, please go on to the next question.
Yes. Is the human mind capable of nonlinear thinking?
Yes. But it has to be in balance with linear thinking as long as you are deciding to have a physical experience. So yes, you can think nonlinearly, multidimensionally, simultaneously, with incorporating that knowledge and awareness into the idea of whatever is necessary as a linear expression of it in your physical reality, so it will be applicable to your physical lives. So you can do both. You can balance it out.
And is reading always better than watching educational digital content?
No, it's up to you as to how to absorb information. But it depends upon how you do that, how you absorb that. For some people, reading may be easier for them to absorb the information. For others, it may be more the digital content. It still all comes back down to what we have said about the idea of story structure being built into your psyche. So if the digital content and the books that you're reading are all structured in a way to deliver the information according to the harmonic points of story structure, then you will absorb the information. So it's not so much about the medium, it's about the way the information is delivered that makes the difference in how you retain it, how you absorb it, and how you apply it from that point forward.
Okay. And this person wants to know, how can I maintain a steady flow of income without repeatedly finding myself struggling to pay rent after indulging in purchases that excite me?
Well, you have to pay attention as to whether indulging in those purchases is actually representative of excitement or anxiety. So you have to have more deep and honest self-investigation to be able to tell the difference between anxiety and excitement. Because if you feel that you are, as you say, strapping yourself in some way, shape, or form by spending more than you have, then that may be an indication not so much of the belief that you will attract what you need, but the idea that there is a sense of lack within you. So you have to pay attention to why you are doing what you are doing, for what reasons are you spending the money that you're spending. At the same time, again, please do remember that we have discussed that there are different forms of abundance, and allowing all of them to be equal, not just having money stand out as to be the only way things can be done, but all of them being equal to one another, then you can relax the idea of what it is you may think you need at any given moment. That will then allow that to synchronistically come into your life in whatever form the abundance needs to be there to allow you to continue to act on your passion. But again, fundamentally, you have to really examine whether you are purchasing the things you are purchasing because they are truly representative of your excitement, that you truly need them in your life, or whether you are just making an assumption based on anxiety and disguising it as excitement so you don't have to pay attention to the real reason you may be purchasing those things. So just be honest with yourself in your self-examination.
Okay, and this next question is, can you please give some examples of what limiting beliefs a person may hold that is causing them to hold excess fat on their body?
Well, this goes back, now again, not the only reason, but this goes back to one of the typical euphemisms that your language provides, in the fact that you may be, quote unquote, waiting around to do what it is you need to be doing, that you're not flowing your energy outward in giving gifts, in sharing things, in doing what you're passionate about, in being of service to humanity, and therefore the energy builds up because it's not got anywhere to go, and it turns into matter, because energy, matter are different sides of the same thing. So when you are waiting to do what it is you need to be doing to express yourself fully, to follow your passion fully, then that can turn into mass and add weight to your system physically.
And how might that apply to people as they age? Not that all people gain weight, but seems like a large percentage of the population gains weight as they get older.
Well, again, many individuals in your population have been waiting for a long time to do what it is they are truly passionate about doing, to be their true selves. And the longer they wait, the more weight they may gain, because the idea of aging starts to imply in their belief system that it now may be too late for them to actually take those actions, and therefore that adds more weighting, and therefore that adds more weight. Well, it depends on the tree, in some senses. It depends on the word, in some senses. It depends on the reason for why it's being done, in some senses as well. So you're kind of looking at a very complex combination of factors that go into why such an action would be taken. Now, of course, you might say, well, it's not an ideal action. It's not representative of something that exists per se in the nature of the tree to have something painted upon it in that way. But again, as a human is also an expression of nature, it can be reflective in the tree, like an animal, may allow for something to happen between itself and a human that will, if the human is conscious enough, reflect back to the human the reasons for why the human felt the need to do that, that can then, from the tree's reflection, put the human in touch with belief systems within it that cause that particular behavior to occur. So trees may be willing sometimes to take that on in order to reflect back to the human something that will put the human in touch with what belief systems are going on within the human's consciousness that caused it to believe that it needed to reflect that on the tree in that way. So it depends on the person, it depends on the tree, depends on the reasons, depends on the circumstance at that moment, and a variety of other things going on. In a sense, you could say it's not necessarily, in its purest sense, representative of an ideal balance, but then again, it may be part of a process to help the human get into an ideal balance.
Hi there, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Pleasure talking to you again. Hope you've
All
been
right,
well.
speak up, please.
Okay. The U.S. presidential election has been very energetic and polarizing.
Yes.
Will we begin to see more change within each other, a bipartisanship between one another? Basically, what I want to do is compare and contrast the energy of what we're leaving to what we're going to as far as the way people are communicating with one another societally.
Yes, If you are willing to do so, that is what you will see. And that's what we're referring to in this transition time, not only over the next couple of months, but also over the next couple of years. It may take 1 to 2 of your years to truly begin, if you practice, the idea of finding unity, harmony, commonality, connection. If you are willing to get at the core issues, because many times what you are calling the concept of partisanship is nothing more than an over-focus on the surface features that individuals believe represent what it is they prefer, but quite often are not. So the idea is that if you really get down to the core issues, the core of each issue, you will find that there's a lot more commonality than you may think. It's just that many people represent these things by different symbols that appear to be polarized. When you can get down to the real reasons, the core reasons why people say they want what they want, why people say they need what they need, you can find that they will almost always come down to some very basic concepts that you all share a desire for. And then once you get to the core and realize what the common need is among all of you, then you can work your way back out and use symbols that are less polarizing, because now you understand that you actually have a common goal of the need of the core that will serve everyone to the best of its ability, and you can use fewer polarizing symbols, maybe even no polarizing symbols, to allow yourselves to work together hand in hand to achieve those things, to manifest those things, now that you don't necessarily believe that they're really on opposite ends of the spectrum, but really just different representations of the same basic need that you all have.
I understand that very clearly. I think so many of us are more down the center on things than we realize. And this actually plays into a follow-up question that kind of goes into, this year we had a lot of discussion about social media. Yes. And our communication, via computers, via social networks, and whether that is helpful or harmful in our lives.
Well, it depends upon the person. It depends upon how it's being used, like anything. Remember, when people ask polarizing questions, no offense.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But the way in which the question was asked assumes that there is simply only one way to look at it from a different point of view. Remember, it's not this or that, it's this and that. Anything can serve double duty. Anything can be experienced positively or negatively. So it's up to the individual to understand within themselves how they are using something, why they are using something the way they are using it, to come to terms with whether or not they believe that they can only use it negatively or believe that they can use it positively.
Understand. So you would suggest that let's say Bashar was on Facebook, or your interactions with, so many of us, I think, are drawn in by wanting to see and experience each other's lives as a form of connection.
Yes.
But we also have other things due to algorithms and things out of our control that
we understand, but they're not really completely out of your control. If you recognize what those algorithms are doing to create more polarization, then you can come to terms and come to an agreement of how to change the algorithms so that it actually creates more realization, more awareness, and more unity.
Do you think we will have more people understand? I very clearly understand the algorithms in my own personal experience online, that the more negative I look at, the more it feeds me more of what I perceive as negative.
Yeah.
Will we have more people understanding the way social media works in their lives and making those choices? Or
well, yes, but again, please do remember, you're asking the question as if more people on the world you're on now have to do that. The idea is you never change the world you're on. You change yourself and shift yourself to a version of Earth that already contains more people that understand that.
Okay, I understand that.
All right.
Another thing, this is one that kind of deals with the spiritual communities, because I'm someone who's participated in a lot of different spirituality communities over time, and I have this perspective these days. I just see a lot of, again, split in that world as well.
Yes.
Where I have a discordance, and I don't want to focus on it at times, but I see it even within dear close friends of mine.
Well, yes, you're going to see it more and more and more. Remember that as you expand your consciousness, you see more of both sides. Now, you don't have to experience both sides, but you become more aware that polarity does exist on every level except the one. So the idea is not to worry that just because you can see more of it, that somehow it affects you. Again, it's the idea that seeing it gives you the opportunity to decide more clearly what it is you prefer based on seeing what you don't prefer. So just because you can see something happening doesn't mean it affects you unless you choose to be affected by it.
Okay, I understand that. I have a question about kind of switching gears here about meditation.
Permission slip, yes.
And using frequencies, which are actually like binaural beats, sometimes people call them, specific frequencies. Is there a specific frequency that helps people get into that you would suggest that people seek out when meditating or trying to align?
Well, again, different things will work for different people in different ways, of course. But in general, one that is sort of, let's say, representative of the collective consciousness is what is often referred to in your language as the Schuman frequency of Earth, 7.85 cycles per second. Now, the Schuman frequency can change, and it often does, and can go up as high as 30 cycles per second or more, depending upon the overall collective emotional energy of your societies on Earth. But the base frequency of about 7.85 cycles per second can be effective as an archetypal frequency that reflects the collective consciousness connection to Earth and its expression as nature. So you can begin there and experiment with it if you wish, but let your imagination be your guide as to what it leads you to, because again, remember, the permission slips you are attracted to because at that moment they will work for you, even if they don't work for someone else. That's why you're attracted to use them.
Okay.
Does that help?
That does help.
All right.
And let's see. I don't know if I have the. I'll ask you one last question.
Oh, all right.
If you don't mind. Are there any within those that very clearly know? I find it interesting in our society now that we have our own military that is releasing information and videos of supposed extraterrestrial craft.
Yes, the very beginnings of disclosure.
Right. With as far as like presidents and world leaders, are there those that are kind of left out of that knowledge base within the let's say military industrial complex?
The individuals who would leave presidents and higher officials out of that particular knowledge base, as you say, out of the loop, I suppose your people say,
yeah,
are not really part of that complex. They're a completely separate body at this point in your history.
Interesting. Can you
so many of your highest officials know nothing about, except maybe on a very cursory level, what some of the individuals know who are actually the ones monitoring these things.
And is there a reason for that? Is there a reason? Have they separated themselves from those leaders over time? I assume they have. Is it for military power, or is it because they don't?
Well, they have a multitude of their own reasons, so to speak. Some of them being the acquisition of power, some of it being the prevention of power in other people's hands, some of it being fear-based in terms of what it might do to the society to know these things, some of it religious-based, based on their assumption of what extraterrestrials may be. But for the most part, most of the withholding is, to some degree, based on some form of fear-based belief system.
Okay, very interesting. Well, I appreciate getting to speak with you today.
And you as well.
I hope you are well, and I'll speak to you hopefully sometime down the line. Take care of yourself.
We thank you and our unconditional love to you.
Much love to you as well.
all over by following my excitement.
Yes.
We talked about me following my biggest excitement in my life is acting,
All right.
and I want to be in movies.
Don't be too insistent. I understand.
But I am insistent, actually.
All right, but don't be too insistent. The idea is that acting is your passion.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
All right. It can bring you those kinds of opportunities. Just don't grip it too hard. You know it's probable. You know it's possible. Just don't hold on to that insistence too hard about exactly how you need to express your acting.
Okay.
Would you be okay if it was stage plays? Would you be okay if it was television? I know you're okay if it's movies. Would you be okay if it's in another form altogether?
Okay.
Would you be okay as long as you're acting? Because remember, acting on your passion needs to be done for its own sake, not because of what you think it will get you as a particular expression.
But you also said that it has to be done in the way that it excites me the most.
I understand that, but I'm also talking about the ways that you are able to do it. So if you're saying you're excited about acting in a movie,
Yeah.
then the way you're able to do it within your own reality and your own auspices is make a movie and act in it. If someone else isn't giving you an opportunity to be in a movie, you
Make it
create
yours-
the opportunity.
Okay.
Yes?
Okay.
That's an action you can take.
Yes.
So yes, in that context, yes, the action has to be in alignment with your passion, but it has to be actions you're able to take. Don't wait for someone else.
Okay, so this is what happened. I've
Yes.
been following my excitement, my highest excitement. I was looking for better feeling thought. I was meditating a lot.
Yes.
I brought myself through the clarity of the steps that you gave us
Yes.
because it's so grounded in action.
Yes.
And most of the time I'm able to out of clarity follow it.
Yes.
Suddenly, because I was excited about making videos
Yes.
on the internet.
Yes.
I don't know if you're aware of the app TikTok.
We understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I got like millions of like people to watch my videos in that way.
Are you acting?
Yeah, I'm making funny. Yeah, I'm making fun.
All right.
It's
But
acting
again,
and
if you would like to take the action
yeah,
of acting in a movie, do what you can within your own auspices, your own abilities to do that. Otherwise, you're not taking action as fully as you can. If you're saying that that is one of the components of acting on your passion, then do it if no one else is giving you an opportunity. Do it yourself as best you can. And while you're doing that, or as you've done it, maybe that can be the trigger for someone else to see that and say, oh, all right, I'll have you in my movie too. But if you're not actually creating the reality you say you prefer to the best you can, taking it as far as you can on your own auspices, then you're not acting as fully as you could be on your passion.
that's a good idea.
Thank you. We sometimes have them.
So, and I love that, and I'm going to do that.
All right. Up to
And
you.
I talked to Abram Hicks, and they're aware of you, and you probably
Absolutely, we're aware of each other.
you're
Yes.
aware of each other.
Yes, it's not like
And-
we hang out in a club, but yes. There are other conversations that happen beyond your planet with all the beings that are assisting your planet.
Okay, you just like through your humor, just like my mind got empty. Okay, I got back. So, do I have to get the general American accent, which I'm close to fulfill my dream?
Do you have to? No. But maybe it might be exciting at some point depending upon what comes up. So again, if it is part of your passion to learn how to have a different accent, then do so. But if it's not part of your passion right now, no, you don't have to.
Can I still fulfill my dream?
Of course you can.
Because the
You're not paying attention.
I do.
If part of your passion, if synchronicity as the organizing principle brings you something where it would be important to have that accent, it will also bring your ability to have that accent in some way, shape, or
Oh, I
form.
love that. Yes, I get it.
It doesn't leave anything out. If it
Okay.
doesn't bring it to you, then you
Yes.
don't need it.
Okay, so through my excitement, if it doesn't bring, if
You
it brings
don't
it to
need
me,
it.
If it doesn't bring it, I don't need it. But if it, and the universe is more powerful, like it doesn't care about the rules of society, it doesn't care about the rules of people, it will create something for me if I follow my excitement. If that's my highest excitement, then it will come.
It will come, but it will come in a way that allows you the ability to act on it without necessarily breaking the rules of your society. Because it's got to come in a way that doesn't get you into trouble.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's not part of your passion.
Yes, it's not like so much about breaking rules, but like just.
Well, I'm just using
word.
your terminology.
Yeah, you do use my terminology,
But the idea, we understand the idea. No, nothing will stop it from coming in a form that will allow you to know you are expressing your highest passion.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
And you can take action again where you can. To use your example, if for some reason it was necessary for one of the society's rules to not exist, for you to really act on your passion, then synchronicity would put you in a position to help change the rule first.
Yes.
So that it creates a path for you.
So
But you will do it in a way that doesn't get you into trouble because that's not part of your passion.
So excitement moves everything open from
Absolutely.
Okay,
Where
okay.
it needs to. What doesn't open, that's not your path.
But I decide my path, no?
You are deciding it by acting on your passion and letting it show you. You don't decide it with your mentality. Because your mind doesn't know how things need to happen. It's not designed to know how things need to happen. Your higher mind knows how things need to happen. So don't get confused that you think that your physical mind needs to be the one that thinks out and works out how things are supposed to happen.
Yeah.
It has no clue. Let your higher mind, let synchronicity show you the path.
Higher mind wishes also my wishes?
Not necessarily.
So then
It can be at odds. When you say wishes, you're very close to saying what I want instead of what I need.
but I'm talking.
The higher mind will always give you the opportunity to be fulfilled through your needs. What more do you need? Because remember, the seventh basic need is your creative expression. So it will always bring you the method, the path, the style, the doorways, the opportunities that will fulfill the need for your creative expression by acting on your passion. Your physical mind doesn't necessarily need to insist on how it should look. And many times when it does, you're not following what your higher mind actually says is the path of least resistance. So you have to let go of the idea that your physical mind has any clue what that path should look like, because you don't know. Let your higher mind and synchronicity show you what the path is that is your path of highest joy and least resistance. Just let it show you. You'll see it, you'll recognize it, you'll get it. Don't insist on how it should look. You don't know how it should look. Be surprised, it's okay.
But then who has the free will here?
You do. When you are given the opportunity, you have the free will to decide what to do with it. All we're simply suggesting is it would be to your best advantage to choose something with your free will that allows you the path of least resistance to be harmonious within you instead of resisting it.
Okay. From your place, which is vibrationally overlooking, can you see, I mean, you talked to me before. I don't know if you know that. Do you
I know
that?
what I need to know.
So do you know,
I don't know what I don't need to know.
So do you know it in this moment that you talked to me before?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I'm talking to you now. And in fact, the truth is, I've never spoken to you before.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you don't even see my process. You don't even see my...
I see what I need to see in the moment if that's part of the discussion that needs to happen. If that's not part of the discussion, I don't need to see it.
Okay,
Therefore, I
so
don't.
in this discussion, do you feel I grasp the process of following your excitement? So how can you help me to like grasp it more?
Practice.
I practice all the time.
Practice more. You're not attempting to achieve a goal. The process is the point. That's what you're not getting. The journey is the destination. There is nowhere else you need to be than what's happening at the moment.
So you want me to be more excited?
I don't want anything.
Okay. So I want to be more excited about...
Follow the formula.
I want to be more excited about the process than the end goal.
Then let go of the belief systems that don't allow you to be excited about it. It simply means you don't understand it.
No, that was a question. I want to be more
You
excited.
simply don't understand it. What I'm saying is, study the idea of the instruction manual. Allow yourself to understand the tools we have described more clearly, more precisely. You're not allowing yourself to really get it yet. You're not understanding it. You're not seeing it clearly. So keep understanding it. Keep studying it. You'll get it.
I have a lot of like results from it, like a lot of good results.
I'm not talking about the times you get the results that you prefer. I'm talking about the times that you don't.
Okay. And
Because that's what you're questioning.
And the times that I don't is because I'm too focused on the result instead of the process. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So I want to be more excited on the process.
Yes, because that's where everything happens.
Okay. I have one more question.
Yes.
Well, there was one question. People, that's important. I want to know if can people, because the higher our conscious, what the gentleman earlier said, the higher our consciousness, the more we're aware of, so to say, positive and negative, right?
Yes.
Okay. So mostly people that come in my life are positive, which
Yes.
I think is a good thing. But
It's
sometimes
what it is.
It is what it is, and that's what I'm focusing on.
Yes.
But sometimes there's still people coming into my life
Yes.
who I feel like they like, sorry to use that word, but like kind of disgust, like from energy wise, they kind of like.
Then why do you associate with them?
No, what if they like